So in this bonus, we're going to talk about text game. You've gone out, hopefully you're approaching a lot now through following the whole Evolutions product. You've learned how to get the verbal game going, ultimately closing, get in that number, and now it's about time to follow up on those numbers and push it to the next level, push it for the meetup so you can go on dates with some of these girls, which is good. So a couple things with texting and why I like it personally. Compared to phone game, back in the day, maybe 5-10 years ago, I think the phone was a lot more prevalent. But now with texting being so, everyone's out there texting. I mean, my dad's texting me, my mom, my whole family. And for girls and women, it's the same type of thing. They're much more likely to respond to a text than a phone call, especially if you've only met her for a short period of time and you don't have a lot of compliance or investment yet. She's much more likely to respond to an easy text compared to if you call her on the phone. That's a pretty big deal for her. The other reasons I like texting is it allows you to be very strategic. So if you get the text, you obviously have more time than in the moment. On the phone, when you're in the moment, it's just like, here we go, here we go. You got to say what's on, you got to be on top of your feet. Whereas when you're texting, you have a little more time to think about the best way to respond and strategize a lot more. With that said, being on the phone, the reason why I am somewhat opposed to it as well is because, as you noticed through the Evolutions product, my goal is to be as simple as possible. More than anything, the reason behind that is the more I do, the more likely I'm going to do something stupid. So if I can keep it minimal, just text very simple texts, that's going to push things forward in a lot nicer way and a lot less risky compared to being on the phone and being flying by the seat of your pants and just going for it. Right? So what we're going to do is get into some techniques that I think work really well, and then also some things to stay away from. The number one thing I want to say when it comes to phone game or text game, any sort of follow-up game, is the way to get good at it is to run a good initial interaction. If you went in there, you were the fucking boss, super attractive, everything was going really well, she loved the time talking with you, she's gonna be waiting around and sitting around thinking, oh, where's that guy? And every text she gets, she's gonna be thinking, where's that guy? I wanna talk to that guy again. So by you running that good initial interaction, it's gonna make a lot of your work after the fact a lot easier. The other thing too with that is some guys, when it comes to the initial interaction, they're just trying to get those numbers quick. They're trying to get numbers. And on boot camp, I teach it. I very rarely even go to the guy, go get a number, because I want to have him keep pushing it past that, push beyond that, which is also why the Evolutions product continually goes through no matter what skill level you're at to push for the close, take her home that night. Because what happens is sometimes when you go out, let's say it's 11 p.m., you go, and after a while, you're talking for 20, 30 minutes, she's laughing, she's totally loving it, and you go to get her number. In that moment, she might be super excited and think, yeah, definitely, she might say, hey, give me a call, this is gonna be great, and she's super excited about it. But what happens is, after you leave, she starts thinking, well, why did he leave? Is it because I wasn't hot enough? Maybe he wasn't that into me. Maybe he's going to look, I'm just plan B, and he's going to look at other girls first and he'll meet up with me some other day, but he doesn't really like me enough to stick with me tonight. Or maybe she'll also rationalize, oh, he's too afraid. He doesn't want to push through the whole night. He's not the type of guy that I thought he was, and I was expecting more out of tonight. So, who knows what they're thinking in their head, but by you stepping away early, that risk becomes a factor. So what you want to do is push forward as hard as you can and keep it going, and push for the close that night. And what I've noticed is that if I go and I push it as hard as I could, and it doesn't work out for, let's say, some logistical reason, like maybe she's there with her friends, or she's staying with her family or her brother, or she's got to wake up really early. If she sees that I pushed it as far as we possibly could, and it's just something in the logistics side of things, those numbers never flake. Those ones she'll always follow up, respond to my texts, and be really excited to meet up again. It's the ones where I don't do that, where let's say I'm running the boot camp, I'm teaching it, and I have to run back and find my clients. Those are the ones where she's like, why did he even leave? I don't even know why he left me. And those thoughts and those doubts come in, and those are a lot less likely to be really solid follow-ups. So number one thing when it comes to text game is run a good solid set from the very beginning. The next thing I want to talk about is a 3-day protocol that I use for every time when I get the number, how to take that number, text, and turn that into a date. Hopefully you take her home. And what you do the first day, so it starts off. Step number 1, when I get that number, I'm going to text her at the end of the night. And I think it's good to get this out of the way just at the very beginning that same night. Then you're not worried about the whole head game of, oh, do I text her today? Do I text her tomorrow? Do I wait 2 or 3 days? I don't want to appear needy. The best is just get it out of the way that night. And it's cool because if you do it that night, sometimes you'll text her and she'll respond right away. She'll be like, hey, it was nice meeting you. And yeah, what are you up to right now? Where are you at? I'm still out. And that's good, obviously, because then you can go meet up with her still that night. Sometimes she just responds saying, oh yeah, nice to meet you. And it kind of ends there. Sometimes she doesn't respond at all. And when I do that text at the end of the night, there's a couple important factors that come into play there. First thing, one of my favorite texts, and I've done this for years now, probably 4 years, and I've taught this to like hundreds of dudes, and what it was to use a statement at the very beginning there. So the statement that I've used probably more than any other is, hey girl, get home safe, Brad. Why do I like that as my initial text? One, it's a statement. So if it is the end of the night, I text her at 2 or 3 in the morning. Let's say she had already left. She went home, fell asleep, didn't get the text the next day. Oh, that's nice. She starts thinking, oh, that's nice. Wow, he just wanted me to get home safe. It just offers value. You're not trying to take anything response. You're not asking a question. So she doesn't even need to respond. And the ball's still in your court because you did that statement. Like I said, I want it to be just some value offering thing. Something funny like, oh, hey, too much tequila last night, always a bad decision. Or just some random fun statement that you don't need a response from. At the end of it, that's the other important part where I'll just put Brad. And the reason why I put that Brad at the very end there is because most of the time when I get the girl's number, it's pretty unlikely that I'm going to sit there, get the number, and go, okay, you get it, and like call her up to have her get the same number and all that shit. I'm just trying to make it as smooth as possible, get the number, whoosh, slide past that. So when I do that, she doesn't have my number, so I know when I text her, she's going to think, who is this guy? So I want to put my name on there. But I'm not going to explain that, oh, I'm the dude with the black shirt, I call it Excalibur, and I had the floofy hair, and we talked about dinosaurs. I'm just going to assume that she remembers me because I'm this awesome dude, and the whole goal is I just need to get that name there, and of course when she sees the name, she's going to remember it. And as I said before, with it just being a curt statement, not explaining who I am, I don't really like using things like callback humor or something funny that happened during the conversation. I just want to keep it nice and quick and to the point. Because what that does is shows that I'm used to this. This is something that happens all the time. If all of a sudden I get into this funny thing about, oh yeah, dinosaurs, ha ha ha, I'm a T-Rex, and really jokey, it just turns out to be too try-hard and too gamey. So just by cutting it nice and tight, it just gets that communication going really nicely, really smoothly. So with that said, what the response is, number one, she does respond that night. And this is why it's cool. What I'll do sometimes is I'll just send a mass text out to all the different girls that I met throughout that night and all the numbers that I got. Remember with the new iPhones, and seems to be the way things are going, is that you can't just send a mass text because they'll all get it at the same time, and that looks very obvious. So it's probably going to be more like a copy-paste type thing to each girl. And what I'm doing is it's kind of like putting the fishing lines out there, thinking, oh, maybe this one will bite, maybe this one will bite. Well, I'm still kind of going out, finding new girls, seeing if I got keeping it warm out there and keeping it rocking. I talk about this a little bit in the Evolutions product. And sometimes I'll get one to answer that night. Maybe she's at home asking, what are you up to? And I'll say, coming to your place. And I've had times where, she's already at home. I got her phone, or I got her address, and boom, we just head back there. A lot of times what'll happen is maybe the next day I'll get a response. She'll be like, oh, well, it was really nice meeting you last night. And it was just something nice and quick. If that's the case, we'll move on to step 2. I'll talk about that in a second, which is the sandwich text. The third thing that could happen is she doesn't respond at all. And again, as I said before, because the ball's still in your court, again, we'll move to number 2, step 2 of the protocol, which is the sandwich text. All right, so the sandwich text, what is this? Basically what happened is when I did that 21-night boot camp in Dubai back in the day, 2-3 years ago, because it was 21 nights long, myself and the client, we had a lot of opportunities to see the long-term repercussions of how we were gaming these girls. Gaming, I'll just say like dating and meeting up and keeping it moving forward. I don't want to say gaming, that sounds kind of weird. So as we were texting these girls, we basically split test to see what the best response was. And it was pretty interesting. Whenever we asked a question for the sandwich text, the hit rate or the likelihood of her responding was about 30%. Whereas if we send a random statement that didn't even need a response, usually it was about an 80-90% chance they're going to respond. Again, this is assuming that you ran a good initial interaction from the very beginning and you kind of we're in there for a while and she knows who you are and she's exposed to your personality and all that. 80-90% we were getting a good hit rate there. So with the sandwich text, what is this? I feel that if you get the text the first night out of the way, that's good. You've started the communication. I feel that if I just the next day go for the meetup, in my own head, it just feels a little too try hard. It's a little too quick, like you want to meet up with her really fast. So I like sandwiching in between there, just some random, superfluous, whatever you're doing that day kind of text, just some random statement. So these would be things like, always good sitting by the pool with a beer, ha ha ha. That's like the text right there, right? Another good one would be, damn, this is an amazing book. I love reading when it's nice out. I don't know, just some sort of statement, and you want to have it be something you're doing today. Let's see, right here, me right now. Damn, I just drank a lot of coffee. It's gonna make these videos a little crazy, ha ha ha. Again, so what happens is when you do that random text, a lot of times they'll just come back pretty quickly. Like, why are you shooting video? Why are you drinking all this coffee? It's 10 p.m. It is pretty late right now. But so you'll get that kind of hit response, and you can kind of get a little bit of a conversation going. I don't want to have this be too long unless she's super into it. That's great, and definitely ride the wave. But I'm just sandwiching something in there. So then when a day or two goes by and I go for the meetup, there's a time where I've kept it warm and it just goes nice and smoothly. Sometimes you do have a situation where on this text, she is also asking, oh, what are you up to right now? Boom. And definitely don't think, oh, I got to wait for the meetup text to follow the protocol perfectly. Go for the meetup right then. Everything can go nice and smoothly. If she's totally free and you have nothing going on, that's great. But if she doesn't respond, or if it just kind of ends, step 3 is the meetup text. So if you have the end of the night text is number 1, and then you have, the sandwich text, which is probably 36 hours to 48 hours later, depending on if you got it on Friday or Saturday. If I got it on Friday, maybe I'll do it on Sunday, as well as if I do it on Saturday, I'll get it on Sunday. Because I want to meet up with her while the water's still hot sometime that week, usually for me Wednesday or Thursday. So then what I'm thinking is on Monday or Tuesday, this is when I'm going to go for the meetup text. It gives her a little opportunity, some time to switch around her schedule, and it's not just like last minute for when you're going for it. And this third meetup text, again, we follow the same rules as before, where you want it to be a statement. So something like, hey, we should meet up later this week. It's gonna be more something like that as opposed to, hey, you wanna meet up later this week? And the other thing that I always mention is to not have it be too specific. So if you say something like, oh, let's meet up at Thursday, we'll get sushi at 8:30 p.m. That's gonna be something that's very, she's gonna see that and think, whoa, maybe she doesn't like sushi. Maybe 8:30 doesn't work, 9:30 does. By making it a little more vague and just saying, let's do something Thursday, then you have a little room to work with about what she can handle or what she likes. As well as I always say with the meetup, is to make it as low compliance as possible. So something just like drinks or something nice and easy, she's gonna be much more likely to come or to want to do something like that, as opposed to if you're like, we're gonna go shopping and then we're gonna go to this concert and then afterwards we're gonna do this, blah, 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 and you have all these different things. That's a big deal for her, and she's got to think about all that shit in her head. Just keep it nice and keep it chill for that first interaction, the first meetup. All right, now what I want to do is get into some more just techniques and basic tactics for when it comes to texting and things that come up. The number one, probably the hugest epiphany I had when I started having multiple girlfriends and getting a lot of numbers and I was texting all the time, is the amount of stress that I was dealing with just keeping up with all these girls. And I started to feel like I was this Las Vegas promoter where I constantly had my fucking BlackBerry out and texting. Now I have the iPhone, it's way better. But at the time, what I didn't know was a concept. It's basically all you have to know is you don't have to respond to every single text that you get. And I was not aware of this. I assumed that, every time I get a girl's number, it was so much work and I want her to respond to every one of my texts. So every time I get a text from her, I'm thinking, oh God, I got to respond to this. So some examples of times that it's probably not a good idea to respond. Ultimately, you just want to look at it and you see the text that you get from her and think to yourself, if me responding to this, is it going to move things forward? How is this going to move things forward? So one good example, let's say you're dating a girl for a little while, you're not exclusive and you're kind of seeing other girls, and maybe you're in a small city and somehow she hears about you making out with some other girl at the bar. All of a sudden you get the text. Sarah says, hey, I heard you were making out with Jennifer last night. What's up with that? I look at this text and I think, how can I respond to this in a way that's going to move things forward? Either I can deny it and it's going to fucking blow up and she'll get all angry and shit, or I can say, whatever, I can lie. Who knows what a way to kind of make this work. In my head, I think the way to make it work, ignore, it just goes into the ether like it never even happened. And about a day or two later, 3 days, 4 days, I'll just let that kind of fade away. And then I'll text her back if I want to meet up with her. and pretend like it never even happened. I was just like, hey, let's do something on Friday. Cool. Boom. And my frame is stronger. Remember, we've talked about frames a lot. Holding that frame that this isn't a big deal. I don't even feed into that, because anytime you feed into that, it's gonna make things go backwards, right? Another example, which was the big one for me, is at one point I was living in Milwaukee, small little city, and I had 7 girlfriends, and they all had blonde hair. They were almost like identical, and each one of them would be texting me when I'm out. And a lot of times I would text them back to kind of see where they're at, so I don't go to the place that has like 3 of them or something. But it became such a big deal because one would be like, hey, come to this party with me. And another one would be like, I'm at this bar. And another would be like, I'm at that bar. And I'm thinking, okay, how can I lie and say, oh, I'm with my friends over here and we might come later, and I'll hold it to make sure she doesn't get sad or mad or anything like that. And I got so stressed out because I was trying to say things non-committally in a way that no one got pissed, and I could kind of just go around and keep gaming other girls. And what I noticed was, I remember I was posting this on a forum. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And someone had the response that was so obvious, yet for me was such a huge epiphany, was you do not need to respond every time someone texts you. So if you get one of those and you don't want to meet up with her, don't answer it. You don't need to. Go do what you want to do. Be the selfish guy and take what you want. Be the hot girl, right? Because that's what the hot girl does. She's getting texts all the time. She's not going to respond to every single one of them. Do what you want, take what you want, and ignore the rest. Something I usually say when it comes to texting is I don't want to be too gamey with my text. A lot of times, guys, they're trying to build attraction through text. And as I said at the very beginning, the way you're going to build attraction, that happens in person. It happens through the subcommunication. And especially when you're doing the digital format of texting and all that shit, it's too likely that she's going to misinterpret what you're saying there and all that shit. So I'm not going to use a lot of sarcasm and try to be all gamey. Back in the day, they used to do shit like, oh, you remind me of polar bears swimming down rainbows into a pot of gold, and all this kind of gamey shit, which on the one hand, logically it makes sense because it shows that you're just a fun, cool dude, but it's just too likely for her to misinterpret that and think that it's try hard, or who knows how she'll respond. Maybe she's very anti-killing bears or some shit, so she starts freaking out. So I'm just gonna stay away from that and keep it very matter of fact, and mostly follow that protocol until I've hooked up with her, and then we go through the dating process, and then a lot of those rules can kind of go away. What I will say, since we're on the thing of sarcasm, is that one is a big deal for me because I'm a very sarcastic person in general, and I've had so many times where I say something sarcastic to her, and I forgot to add the little wink or little smiley face emoticon at the end, and the girl interpreted it as me just being mean. So make sure that it's very obvious if you're telling a joke to her that it's a joke. If you looked at a lot of my text threads, it looks like freaking emoticons, like smiley face, little emoji pictures all over the place. And on the one hand, yeah, it's a little cheesy, but I want to make it very obvious and make it that when I'm joking, she knows exactly what's kind of going on there. So I think it's a good way to kind of, through the digital format, somehow show what you're meaning beyond just the actual words. But again, like I said, I don't want to use too much of that gamey shit, just because attraction is going to be built in person, and it's best for me just to be with her in person, get that meetup, and then I can work from there. Some other little tactics that I think are good to help you out, besides the smiley face and the emoticons. One is always paying attention to timing. So I'm always making sure that if I send her a text and she responds in, let's say, half an hour, I'm going to wait about a half an hour, 45 minutes there to respond back. Unless it's very obvious, like she just was busy and you need the quick response. But I'm somewhat conscious all the time of seeing, okay, how is she responding? How am I responding? Who's got the ball? Who's in whose court? And over time, you develop an intuition. You can just feel when the girl, you got some good momentum going, and it's actually better to text faster, and you can feel the momentum. And when you have the full power of it, as opposed to you can also feel when you're losing it a bit, and that's the time to really step back and take a breather there for a bit, because you can feel all of a sudden she's gaining the power, and you're answering way too quick, and she's responding slower and slower, and after a while, you just overgame, and the attraction disappears. Another one that is very important is the length of text. So I'm also always making sure that if she responds really quickly, which is a couple words, I'm going to respond similar. I don't want to have my threads be super long, hers be really short, super long, really short. If hers get longer, and I know there's a lot of attraction there, then I'm just going to get a little looser with it and not worry too much about all the rules and strategies. But I know if it's really tight there and I don't have a lot of investment in compliance and attraction, I'm going to play the game really nice and tight and you just keep that shit really solid game style. Another thing that's cool too, what you can do, I talked about not being too gamey with it, but it is text game is actually a great strategy towards amping up the sexuality in the conversation before the next meetup. And I've had multiple times where, let's say I met up with the girl once and we kind of, maybe she came back home, but nothing really happened. And I'm trying to go to move things forward. A lot of times as I get enough attraction there, and then I do some kind of sexual innuendo, a lot of times I'm just poking out there to try to get it sexual, and maybe I misinterpret something she says in a sexual way. And once she latches onto it at all, and I got the green light to really go sexual, that's when I'm really going to turn it up and amp it up, because I think girls really respond to that. I'm not to the level where I do like crazy sexting or anything like that, but just some fun things like one of my favorite old school texts, I'd always text the girl, "You don't even want to know what I'm thinking about doing to you right now." And a lot of times, every time I do that one, it ends up going really well the next time we meet up, because it just builds a lot of anticipation. So even though I don't want you gaming, you can build some sexual tension there and sexual energy. Hopefully you have a few new techniques that you can try out, or you're more aware of certain things that you're conveying through how you respond in text. I think it's a lot of fun to kind of really pay close attention there. It almost turns into a chess game at times, which can be really enjoyable. Ultimately, what is the end goal? Again, by you running really good interactions at the beginning when you meet her, a lot of this stuff takes care of itself. She's going to just be texting you to meet up, and you don't have to play the game as solid. And also, have a lot of girls in your life. If you're out there, you get enough numbers, you're going out enough, you get a couple numbers a night, you're going to be texting so many damn girls that you're automatically going to have your timing be right, where you're just going to not care as much about texting her. Maybe you won't respond to all her texts because you have all these other girls. So ultimately, the best answer to any sort of problem you have with texting is go get more numbers and go have more girls that you're texting with. And a lot of that energy that you put towards one specific girl goes away. Because the worst thing in the world is when you only have one girl that you're working on, and you send that text to her about meeting up, and then you just sit there, and every time your phone vibrates, you're hoping it's her, and you hope you get a response. And there is this weird fourth dimensional, universal energy that you're throwing out there, and they can somehow feel that. They do actually feel that, even as tight as you're trying to play the game here. So just have a lot of girls, create that abundance, and most of this text game will take care of itself. So thank you for checking out this bonus material, and enjoy everything else too. Cheers.